Hey, what's up? I'm not doing much tonight because I'm using this book to teach myself how to create my own bank and how to build wealth and how to make sure I don't ever pay a bank interest, which is a pretty useful skill to have. So since I'm sitting here not doing much, I will start doing these book reviews for you. The 48 Laws of Power. It's a crazy book. They had to ban this book in prisons because the prisoners apparently started learning too much about power and were just messing with the guards. I don't know, but this book was a gift. So I'll go over these laws with you. The first one, it's huge. Never outshine the master. This can make or break you in many instances. And this is just a book review, so I'll go over that law like a summary because it's a very long book. You'll see. It's like 500 pages, so I'm going to try to get it to you quick. So chapter 1, the first law of power, never outshine the master. Always make those above you feel comfortably superior. And we'll go into the transgression of this law where it failed, where the master was outshined, which you never want to do. Especially if you have a master that, it's just insecure. Some people are monstrously insecure. So you want to treat everyone like they're insecure. Anyway, so the transgression of this law, never outshine the master. Nicolas Fouquet, he was the finance minister during the reign of King Louis XIV. And he sort of thought he was falling out of sorts with King Louis XIV. So he said, I have to do something so I don't lose my seat. And he decided to throw a lavish party. Some of the greatest minds of his time were at this party. And he had, all these different foods, decorations. It impressed everyone. And Nicolas Fouquet, the King Louis XIV's finance minister, thought he was doing a great job. He just thought he was, doing something, impressing the king. But he impressed the king too much. The day after the lavish party, Nicolas Fouquet, the finance minister, was arrested and imprisoned for 20 years in solitary confinement, which is crazy. He was just trying to have a good time. And it turns out he was arrested for stealing from the county treasury, which was actually on behalf of the king, and he had the king's permission to do so. And we'll go into, interpreting what happened. So Nicolas Fouquet threw this party to try to stay in the king's graces because he thought he was falling out of sorts with the king. King Louis, the Sun King, King Louis XIV, known as the Sun King, was a proud and arrogant man. He needed to be the center of attention, and he couldn't stand his finance minister throwing such a lavish party. The guests were more charmed by Nicolas Fouquet than the king himself. And why would anybody outcharm the king? That's outshining the master. You're not supposed to do that. That's law 1. So that was really where it is. The minute King Louis felt he was being outshined, his insecurities bubbled up, and he said, you know what? This Nicolas Fouquet, he's got to go. So he went. It's not even like he did anything wrong. He just outshined the master. And apparently outshining the master will land you in prison, solitary confinement for 20 years, so don't do it. But this next one, so that's when outshining the master failed. That's what you don't want to do. Now, we'll take a look into Galileo. Galileo, the astronomer, he played it perfectly. He didn't outshine the master. He spent his early years doing astronomy, studying the stars, doing math, all that stuff. And he pretty much was relying on generous rulers to support his study. Kings, rulers, people would support his work, and he was appreciated, but he would beg. He always had to beg, and he didn't want to beg anymore. So Galileo had to figure out, how could I go full-time with my work? And he knew he knew this. It was like innate. He knew he had to find a master that he wouldn't outshine. And so he did. When he discovered the moons of Jupiter, and it's almost like it was perfect. When he discovered the moons of Jupiter, he named the moons of Jupiter after the Medici family. So the Medici family, during this time in the 1600s, the Medici family dynasty began in 1540 in Italy. And in this time, about 1600, Cosimo II was being enthroned. And Cosimo II had 3 brothers. And Galileo happened to discover the 4 moons circling Jupiter. So what did Galileo do? He decided to name the moons after Cosimo. And this act of honoring the Medici family, the Medici dynasty, earned Galileo a seat as the court's astronomer and mathematician. And this is something most astronomers didn't have. This was a dream. This was the best job you could have as an astronomer. And he did all that by not outshining the master. He made this phenomenal discovery. It was the year 1600, and he looked through a telescope and found moons on Jupiter. That's amazing. He made this discovery, he honored the Medici family, and he got his royal seat as the Medici court astronomer and mathematician. And the only thing he really didn't do is outshine the master. If he did, he wouldn't have gotten his seat. If he tried challenging the Medici's intelligence, the Medicis wouldn't have liked that, and they would have said, "Who is this guy? Let's get him out of here." And so he earned everything he sought out to by not challenging the Medicis with his discovery of Jupiter's 4 moons. So those are some nice stories. I hope you like them. There's a couple keys to power that you want to pay attention to. You don't want to stir resentment with your talents. You can inadvertently outshine your master, so be aware. Don't outshine, even if, naturally you might be a really amazing person, and, whoever is superior to you at the time, you do not want to make them know how great you can be. You want to hide that. If you believe the master loves you, don't think you could do whatever you want to do. You can't. Even if the master loves you, you can't think you could do whatever you want to do. It's a law. So in terms of making sure you don't outshine the master when you're just acting yourself, you got to jest. You got to play the game. And if the master loves you, don't think you could do anything. Always show respect. Jest with respect. And so a couple things, sort of reversal. So those laws were pretty straightforward. We went over Nicolas Fouquet outshining the master. We went through Galileo not outshining the master. Now here are some tips of the trade. You can be selectively cruel. If your leader is a falling star, then there's no fear in outshining him. You don't have to have mercy too. You got to gauge their strength. If they're weak, you have to discreetly hasten the downfall. Outdo them, outcharm them, outsmart them, all at key moments. If they're very weak, you just let nature take its course. They'll die off. You'll take your seat of power. Do not risk outshining a feeble superior. That'll make you look cruel and spiteful. If your master is firm in his position, still strong, sharp, just be patient. Don't outshine him, and let time work its course. That's it. That's Law 1 in the 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Thank you. Have a good night.